This is TWiT.
Update on the Zoom web server. Actually, I think there's an update on the update. So we talked about it last week. Zoom, which is that teleconferencing software that, you install, and then, like most people, you probably uninstalled after the conference was over. If you did, what you didn't know is that they left a secret web server on your system. Apple's pushed a Silent Mac update to remove the Zoom web server because it turns out, even though you didn't have the Zoom software on there, since that web server was sitting there, if somebody sent you an invitation, they could actually turn on your camera and get you in a conference without your knowledge. Zoom has also done an update, although the first Zoom update, the first Apple update maybe didn't do enough because it's pushed another update. That's the latest. Apple has pushed another automatic Mac software update to I guess, their additional Zoom-related vulnerabilities. Everybody's muted.
No, oh,
sorry.
No, just nobody's talking.
No, everybody was muted.
Sorry, my bad.
Karsten turned you all off.
Yeah.
Dave, let Dave take this one. I want to get Dave in here more.
Yeah.
Do you use Zoom?
Interesting. I used it this morning for a web conference.
It's very popular.
Some company. That's the thing, is it's super popular and it works really well. And I think that is the reason their engineers originally created this web server, right? They wanted to give this seamless, fluid customer experience. Right. And their engineers said, I know how to do that, right? Now, they didn't think, 2 steps beyond that, like, hey, maybe somebody could exploit this. But the same could be said about SMTP, right? Like the engine that's used to send email. If the people knew about spam when they created it, they might not have created the same engine. So I get it. But where the issue comes in is their response last week, right? Where Jean-Louis Gasset, who was the president of Apple France for a while, has this great concept called the 2 tokens concept of customer service. And he says, when a customer brings you a problem, there are 2 tokens on the table. One says it's nothing. The other says it's awful. And you get to pick up first. But whichever one you pick up, your customer picks up the other. You force them to. And Zoom came out and said, it's nothing. Oh, no. That's not a good idea because the customer then must. And by the customer, we mean all the rest of us got to pick up the it's awful token.
Right. They
learned their lesson, I think. But, do they recover PR-wise from this? Actually, I think they do.
I think they did. If somebody asked you on a Zoom conference this morning, I think they're already fine. I was wondering. Okay. Yeah. I was wondering. I think companies are so tied into it that it's too hard for them to find another conferencing solution, and so they just use it.
Yeah, it was a potential exploit. I don't think we heard of anyone using it, although there's no reason people couldn't have.
Right.
So, it's shut down. And it all happened very quickly, and Apple's fixes for it are probably credited to Zoom by many, many, non-techie people. And people are like, because I mentioned it on the call. I'm like, because I was 5 minutes late or something, and they're like, "Why were you late?" I'm like, "Well, I had to, you're using Zoom. I had to go and get it again."
So Dieter Bohn says exactly this in the Verge article. The core issue stems from a change Zoom made to its software to work around a security update Apple made to Safari. You probably noticed this. Safari was recently updated in such a way that it required user approval to open a third-party app every time. And Zoom didn't want to have users having to deal with that extra click. So they installed the web server that listened for calls to open up Zoom conferences. And combined with that, the fact that it was common and easy for Zoom users to have their default set to have video on when joining a call, that's when the maliciousness began. Zoom has backed down. They've changed their attitude. They said, yeah, we're going to fix it. Apple did push a second fix out today. But these silent patches, you don't have to do anything, right? You don't even, Andy, do you see them? I haven't seen them.
No, I don't. I think they're just, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lori.
I was just going to agree with you.
Yeah, they just simply happen. When they're this important as security updates, they just simply happen. You don't have the option of turning them down.
I think that's good. I like that. And they happen without your interaction even.
Yeah, and this is a really good example of sometimes when Apple does something that's very, very good and very, very positive, such as creating all the new security enhancements in the latest versions of macOS. Sometimes when you take this idea that is brilliant inside one infinite loop or inside the spaceship campus and you put it out in the wild, it becomes people don't see the increased security. All they see is, why is this app asking me for permission to do something that every computer should just be able to do on its own? And then the complaints, for instance, one complaint that I've been hearing from a lot of developers was if a user's Dropbox folder and other like certain kinds of folders, they're in a certain place unless the user changes the default. So this app should be able to find the Dropbox folder and sync to something very, very easily without forcing the user to go through dialog boxes or stuff like that. But now there was a change so that now you have to actually ask for permission to use to go outside of this outside of your box and actually find and locate the Dropbox folder. You have to ask the user, please locate my Dropbox folder for me. And from the user's point of view, suddenly the developer of this graphics app is an idiot who thinks, you know where it is. You've always known where it is. Why do I have to suddenly point at the Dropbox folder for you? And they really can't say, Apple is making us do that. So sometimes to try to keep your customers happy, you find yourself, again, if you're inside this conference room, not knowing how badly this will go once this is exposed to non-air conditioned air. How can we get around this so that we're not inconveniencing our customers? I know, let's leave a persistent web server on the computer at all times that they never know about. And so this is not so much of them being idiots, so much as they're wanting to make their customers happy, but not thinking the requisite number of steps ahead, not flipping to the end of the book to see what happens after they do this thing.
Turns out that there were others white labeling Zoom's technology, including Ring Central, one of our former sponsors, and Zumu, Z-H-U-M-U. And that's what Apple's doing. These are white label versions of the Zoom technology. So Apple is now removing those as well, even uninstalling.
To answer your question before, Leo, whether these get installed automatically or not, I think they do no matter what. Right. But if you go into System Preferences, Software Update, there's an Advanced button in the lower right with 3 dots, which means there's more to it. If you click that, at the bottom of the list, at least in Mojave, is Install System Data Files and Security Updates.
Oh.
I recommend leaving that checked.
So
I don't
you could
know
uncheck that if you wanted to.
You could uncheck it for sure. Whether or not that would have avoided the Zoom update from coming, right, I have no idea, right? But
it's on by
I would
default.
say leave that checked.
That makes sense. And then there are people like you, Dave. You're working in there. Maybe you're using Pro Tools on a Mac, and you don't want to affect the stability of a system, and so you're afraid that in the middle of a recording session, Apple could push something. So there are people who would turn that off, of course. But in the normal course of events, leave it on.
I recommend leave it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.